Did you ever happen to work with Clay Travis at Deadspin?
I did not. He took over after I left. When I left, I announced that I was leaving, and what had happened basically was I left, and I had recommended AJ Delorio, who has had some notoriety of his own in the last in the time since then. But he and I had been friends for a long time and still are. And I recommended him to take the job. Not everyone at Gawker Media, which owned Deadspin at that point, was sure of that. So they wanted someone from a mainstream media place to settle down AJ. So they chose Clay Travis, who was writing columns for CBS at the time. I didn't really think it was much of a fit, but I was walking away. I really felt it was important for me to walk away from the site. I think Clay was obviously not a fit at Deadspin, and I think that AJ kind of made sure that the site was his very quickly afterward, and Clay moved on to other things.
So I understand that Clay has done his thing with Outkick the Coverage and Periscope and what have you. And a large portion of this is because in his own mind, and I mean, if anybody is watching it, he is speaking to what he believes is true a lot of the time. The similarity that I have seen, though, between Deadspin and what he's doing is that a lot of the times you guys will report on ESPN and Fox News and Fox Sports 1, and a lot of the anchors that are coming and going and the sources that each respective outlet has. How much do you think him going after ESPN in the way that he did has helped his platform and his coverage and his notoriety within sports media?
I certainly think that there is a similarity, a surface one, in that back. And of course, I can't speak to what Deadspin's doing now because I have no actual editorial leadership over there, and just basically just read them and think they're awesome, but hopefully otherwise just stay out of their way. Sure. But I would say that certainly when I was at Deadspin, and I think AJ and Tommy Craig's after me, there was certainly ESPN is they're the Death Star in kind of the Death Star or the North Star, whichever way you want to put at it. They're a place to they're the establishment in the same way that in any kind of industry, there's always they're the big behemoth, and particularly in sports, ESPN is particularly the largest behemoth. So what I tried to do while covering ESPN, and I think to as well AJ and Tommy, I think in different formats, and then Tim Marchman as well, is to cover them the way that you cover all sports, to treat ESPN like a sports league itself and to cover them accordingly. Now, I would argue, while Clay has certainly benefited in some of the similar ways that I think that Deadspin over the years has benefited, that I think the wrinkle that Clay has put in the situation is there's no greater truth that Clay is trying to get out of on ESPN, or there's no he's not trying to uncover some journalistic thing. Clay has decided that there are a certain number of people that he can stoke up by claiming that ESPN is a certain way or pushing it a certain sort of way. And I think because of that, Clay is I think incredibly skilled. Clay is a smart guy, and Clay is incredibly skilled at whipping up something out of nothing that gets certain people that feel like we're not getting the real story ginned up. And therefore, I think what is the ultimate goal of all of this, it inflates Clay's profile considerably. And listen, that Clay is not the only person in the world that does that. Lots of people try to do that. Clay is more successful at it than others. I still feels frankly a little InfoWarsy to me. I always joke that eventually Outkick the Coverage is going to have a mineral water drink or for potency that they're going to sell on there. But there is sort of a conspiracy theory aspect to it. But listen, that is the much perhaps my chagrin, and I think you can argue Deadspin probably had a factor in this. Much to my displeasure, is that the idea of that kind of blatant self-promotion and the brand called you and the idea us against them, I think it's a playbook that Clay has mastered for better or for worse.
So where does that go? Is it going to continue that way? How big is that group of people that they're able to stoke up in that manner? And is it aptly represented in people's minds, or is it overblown given how big that group actually is? Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of coverage as a result of this? What's your take?
You hope that eventually the bubble's going to pop, because I think clearly it's overblown the number of people. This is not just Clay in sports. This is the idea that all of a sudden there was this notion, there was this huge backlash to The Last Jedi, when there wasn't. There was just a very vocal, very small minority of angry Star Wars fans who didn't like that they changed this, or there were women doing things and all of this. And because the media is very we kind of follow whatever's in front of us. We're like, controversy. That looks like a controversy. It's really kind of Tommy Craggs has said before that like everything is Gamergate. And it feels a little like that. The game. This is something that Gamergate figured out. You could take an issue that bothered you personally and make it into such a big thing by making your voice louder and wider than it really actually is, and fool corporations or fool like that's what Clay has really done so well with ESPN. He's gotten them to react to Clay's small gaggle of people as if it's actually a constituency rather than just people that he's kind of stirring up to do this. I think that's what you've seen with the Last Jedi stuff. I think it's what you saw with like the female Ghostbusters thing. I think it's what you see obviously in every single part of American politics right now.
Yeah,
I hope the bubble pops. Am I going to predict that it's going to pop? I hope so.
A lot of people are saying the bubble's going to pop. I'm not going to say who those people are. That's the same. I think that's the same one. But I agree with you in that respect.
Alrighty, Will Leitch. Look, we really appreciate you joining us here on TYT Sports. We had talked a few years ago at my former employer, and I got to say, every time that we have you on, it's always hilarious. It's always great insights, and I know I'm speaking for Brett. Always have a good time. So thank you so much for joining us here on TYT Sports.
I'm sorry. I'm going to need to hear that as from Brett as well. I don't know if
I was holding back a joke. Was like I was just going to say like, and you speak for me when you say it is deeply arousing. And I was like, don't say that.
We're back to the goat thing again, aren't we?
Yeah, totally. No, it was awesome. I enjoyed myself. I dare you, Joe Rogan.
All right, thank you guys. It is a pleasure to be on.
All right, Will. Thank you.